For decades now, Russians have known the drill. When there's bad news brewing, such as the death of a leader, or a convulsive event, such as the Chernobyl disaster, state TV switches its programming and begins airing Tchaikovsky's ballet, Swan Lake. Nothing to see here, folks. But also note the choice of distraction. Ballet is centrally important to Russian society and to Russian image. Dancers slicing through the air and challenging laws of physics and gravity represent civility and grace. But after February 24th, when Russian military troops invaded Ukraine, Russian ballet troops had their Western tours canceled. And just last week, Moscow's Bolshoi Theater abruptly canceled shows by directors critical of Putin's military campaign. And so it is the brutal war plays out on the most delicate of fronts, leaving ballet in exile.
The story will continue in a moment.
When ballet dancers are described as God's athletes, well, you could offer up Olga Smirnova as supporting evidence. She treads on air, coming in on little cat feet. She's a Russian prima ballerina, one of the world's leading dancers. But days after Russia invaded Ukraine, Smirnova pirouetted and stepped off her stage at the renowned Bolshoi Theater with dramatic flourish. She took to social media to express her outrage, and then fled the country, the modern-day version of Nureyev or Baryshnikov defecting. When you sat down to write that social media post, what did you want to communicate? What did you want to say?
I just couldn't keep it inside. I was so ashamed of Russia. This is the truth. I'm not ashamed that I'm Russian, but I'm ashamed because of Russia started this action.
I want to read what you wrote. You said you were against this war with every fiber of your being, but I now feel that a line has been drawn that separates the before and the after.
It's how I felt. 24th of February, was the line, because it's all changed. All changed. The reputation of Russia and Russians people. Even if you are not a soldier, you're just Russian, it's still make a shadow on you.
Being Russian.
Being Russian, and it's really painful.
Predictably, Smirnova's post went viral. She was, after all, a leading light at Moscow's Bolshoi Ballet. From the Russian word for big, Bolshoi is the world's largest ballet company and the most prestigious. The theater is physically close to the Kremlin, a short walk away, and also aligned inextricably with the Russian government. Tsars love the Bolshoi. For decades, communist leaders used the Bolshoi Theater for political stagecraft, holding rallies and giving national addresses there.
This is something that celebrates Russia. Every important guest who would visit the Soviet Union would be invited to the Bolshoi to see the performance, and there was a pride of Russia at any time.
Alexei Radmansky trained at the Bolshoi School and was, for a time, its artistic director. He was born in Russia, but grew up in Kyiv, where his parents still live. At the time of the invasion, he was in Russia choreographing 2 ballets. He left the country immediately, unwilling to continue working in a world so tied to the Putin regime.
As I was going in a taxi to the airport, I felt these 2 sandcastles falling apart behind my back.
Those sandcastles were the work you had done?
Yes. It was an agony. It was a very hard day.
And, of course, a catastrophic day for Ukraine. Indiscriminate bombings and missile strikes raining down upon the country, crushing lives and dreams. Not least those of an ascendant ballerina from Kyiv, Paulina Chepik, age 17. You wanted to be a ballerina for years and years. What was it like when suddenly you couldn't go to school, couldn't dance?
I was shocked, and I'm like, oh my God. And first, about what I'm thinking, that I left my point shoes in college. It was my
That was your first thought?
Yes.
You left your point shoes at school.
I left everything, actually.
War didn't stop her in her footsteps. She resumed dancing at home, using whatever she could as a bar. But after a few days, her parents, both former dancers, focused on getting Paulina out. They called on a famously well-connected figure in the tight-knit ballet community, New Jersey-based Larissa Savliev. You're getting this barrage of emails from parents and from dancers. What are they telling you? What are they asking you?
Please help. That was get us out of here. They're willing to give up everything else, but they have to dance. And the parents were, it doesn't matter what we do, they have to dance.
This was their lifeline almost.
This is it. They could not imagine not dance.
In the 1990s, she founded Youth America Grand Prix, a ballet competition and scholarship program, pairing aspiring dancers with ballet schools worldwide.
Well, no, they want to see her for full year, but you have to come for the summer first.
Now, in a humanitarian crisis, she and the international ballet community scramble to action. Savliev tapped her vast network, relocating more than 100 young Ukrainian dancers to new schools and host families.
We give each child a number just to move faster. And we say, okay, number 55 is just get a spot in Stuttgart. Okay, number 54, just get a spot in Dresden.
Cross it off the list.
Cross it off the list.
When a slot opened for Paulina, she stuffed leotards and tutus into a suitcase, along with a bottle of her mom's perfume, a reminder of home. And then she headed to Kyiv's train station.
And my parents are in a window of train. They said goodbye, we love you, everything will be fine. And I was crying and we were all crying. I was thinking maybe I need to take my suitcase and go back to my family because my heart was broken, really.
How did you overcome that? What made you not get off that train?
Because it's open door for me. It's like door for my dream.
17-year-old that she is, Paulina documented the lonely odyssey on TikTok. Trains and buses, 5 days and 1,200 miles, Kyiv to Lviv, Poland to Berlin, finally to Amsterdam, where she landed at the Dutch National Ballet Academy, one of the leading schools in the world. When you got to the new school and started dancing again, how did that feel?
Oh, I was very happy, yes. My mind changed because I was thinking about my parents all the time, for my family, for my sister. And when I go to the ballet class, this world changed for me. I have another world of ballet.
Her adjustment was made easier when she found other Ukrainian dance students who, thanks to Larissa Savliev, also found safe harbor in Amsterdam. Paulina fell into a routine immediately. On the cusp of a professional career, she prepared for final exams. She was jittery beforehand. She emerged relieved, triumphant, and eager to report back to Mom. What did you tell her?
That I was nervous, but when I start, I do everything right.
If the war has made refugees out of some Ukrainian dancers, it's made soldiers out of others. When the war began, Alexei Podyomkin, a principal dancer with Ukraine's National Ballet, turned in his tights for military fatigues. Here he is in downtown Lviv last week, having just returned from duty as a medic. What was your life like before the war?
Before war, I preparing a new premiere in ballet, Ukrainian ballet. Like real normal life. And just one moment, it's like changes. But I need to do something. I can't sit just at home in shelter and watch TV, how my friends die and everyone do something.
What have you seen these last few months?
Every day, it's really scary. They crashed everything, destroyed houses of civilians people. It's brothers, son, fathers, sisters.
While he says he's shaken by what he's seen unfold on the battlefield, he's also appalled by a war taking place on another front, at the Bolshoi.
Like Bolshoi now, it's toxic theater. Nobody want to work with you.
You said toxic.
Toxic, yes. In Russia, art, it's politics. It's Russian government use it ballet. It's like weapon.
The weapon was deployed at the Bolshoi as recently as last month, when the theater revived a production of Spartacus in support of the Russian military invasion, unnerving many in the dance world, including longtime head of the Dutch National Ballet, Ted Branson.
Well, it was a very clear statement that we have to support our boys who are on a military operation to save Ukraine from the fascists, which is a totally ridiculous concept, of course.
This allegory, Spartacus, about the slave revolt is somehow being co-opted by the aggressive superpower.
Absolutely. No, it's not for nothing that this became one of the signature ballets of the Soviet time.
Abroad, the Ballet Community has staged benefit concerts to raise funds for Ukraine, while Russia's famed companies, the Bolshoi and St. Petersburg's Mariinsky, have had their touring dates canceled.
I think you need to be a little bit more active with your arms.
With the Iron Curtain down, artists have to pick a side. Alexei Radmansky left Moscow for American Ballet Theater in New York, where he is artist in residence and where we spoke with him remotely last week. Sounds like you don't buy this idea that, look, individuals shouldn't bear the responsibility for the acts of the state, that artists should just be artists.
No, I don't think the artists are separate from politics. And besides, for me, it's not politics. It's about humanity. It's about responding to war crimes, responding to the crimes of your government, of your president. It just made things clear, which things are important and which aren't. And you make a choice. You decide where you want to belong.
For Olga Smirnova, that choice came together in a matter of days after she condemned the war. She left Russia and landed on her feet at the Dutch National Opera in Amsterdam, just around the corner from Paulina's school. It must have been incredibly difficult to leave the Bolshoi.
If you make a choice, you have consequences. But this is how it works. I had to leave everything, like my home, my theater, my repertoire, my partners, my parents, sister, brother, everything. But I don't have regrets.
No regrets.
No. Because at least I can be honest with myself.